Good morning, Kennedy.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great. Well, boy, it's D-Day finally for you. I know you've been hunkered down, getting ready for this for a long, long time. Tonight is the night, the first round in Chicago, and it is going to be a spectacle. Before we get into kind of breaking down this draft, and I've looked at the information you sent, so I already know the answer, but I want you to tell our listeners, just forget needs, forget position, forget what teams are looking for. Best player available in this draft, in your opinion?
I've asked between two, but Jalen Ramsey and Laramie Tunsil, I think, are far and away better than everybody else. Miles Jack might be in the conversation if it wasn't for his injury. I worry about that, and obviously teams are worried about that too. But I love versatile players on defense, and I think that's where the defenses are going these days. I mean, that's why we have these hybrid safety cornerback kind of guys and these hybrid linebacker safeties. So I think a guy like Ramsey, who can play nickel linebacker, he can play in the slot, he can play on the outside corner, and he can play safety as well. I think he would be a stud at any of those positions, and therefore I think he's the most valuable player in the draft because you can cover up any of those four positions on your team, and you can move them around. So he's my favorite player. I think Laramie Tunsil is a Williams-type left tackle who's going to be there for 10 to 12 years, so he's right up there with Ramsey. But if you don't pick one of those two guys, if it's not a quarterback, then I don't really know what you're doing.
Well, Kennedy, that's what makes the draft so much fun is I agree with you. I think Ramsey and Tunsil are awesome players. Miles Jack, too. Ezekiel Elliott. I think all of those guys are better players than Wentz and Goff. But the first two picks are going to be quarterbacks. Everybody wants a quarterback. The Rams traded up. The Eagles traded up to take quarterbacks. And I know you've got Wentz rated 6th. I think you've got Goff rated at number 11. Both of these guys are good players. Whether they'll be franchise quarterbacks, we'll have to wait and see. Yet these teams moved up, bypassing what probably are sure things in Ramsey and Tunsil to take a couple of these quarterbacks. It's just the way it goes, huh?
Yeah, no, it is. Mike Mayock was a little harsh. I think it was last night on TV. He said, if you're an NFL team without a quarterback, you're not an NFL team. So
wow.
I guess, you have to keep trying to get that NFL quarterback. You have to have a solid guy that's going to be there. And it's true. The teams that have quarterbacks are doing just fine. The Rams have arguably the best roster in the league besides quarterback, and they couldn't make it into the playoffs. So that shows you how important that quarterback is. And if you don't have one, you got to keep swinging, even if that means passing up on good players.
All right, you want to do a little mock draft here real quick, Kennedy?
Sure.
All right, let's rattle them off real quickly. First pick, Rams. Wentz or Goff?
I wish it was Wentz, but I think it's going to be Goff.
So the Eagles go with Wentz?
Yep.
All right, Chargers at 3. Where do they go?
I think DeForest Buckner. That's the feeling that I'm getting. It could be Laramie Tunsil or Jalen Ramsey, but I think DeForest Buckner.
All right, well, tell me the Cowboys are going to jump all over Jalen Ramsey.
Unfortunately, I think they are. I'm a Redskins fan, so that I would hate to see him in a Cowboys jersey, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Jaguars, interesting pick at number 5. We had their sideline guy on earlier. He talked about several different scenarios. Of course, they would love Ramsey to fall to them. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm with you. I think the Cowboys grab him. They go Miles Jack, you think, at 5?
It depends entirely on the medical. I hope so. That's why I submitted a mock draft last night, and that's what I had in my mock draft. But if the medical's not there, I could see it either being Joey Bosa or maybe even Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd's climbing up draft boards. He's kind of a raw guy that Gus Bradley could play around with, but I think it would be Bosa if it's not going to be Miles Jack because of the medical. So for this mock, let's say we go Miles Jack.
Okay. If Tunsil falls to 6, surely the Ravens are going to grab him, right?
Yes, they have to. I don't think that's a question.
All right.
Or trade back. If they get a bevy of picks, right, they might trade back.
49ers at 7.
49ers, this is a tough one. I think they also go offensive tackle. I think that they're going to go with Stanley. That's what I had in my mock, but they also are going to be looking to trade out, I think.
And the Browns traded out of the 2 pick, so they fall to 8th. What's Cleveland with the new coach Hugh Jackson looking at doing?
I think they're also going to look. I think they're going to look to trade out, but I think they'll go offensive tackle. I think Jack Conklin's flying up for it, so I think we might have 3 tackles in a row, and that would be Jack Conklin there to them.
Tampa Bay at 9.
Tampa Bay, this is Joey Bosa. If he is fallen, like I said, if he goes 5, then I would flip Miles Jack to this position as well. So, I was kind of vacillating there, but I think if Joey Bosa slips, this is where his slide ends.
A lot of folks, of course, always interested in what the Giants will do. They're in the top 10 this year with that 10 pick. They got quite a few needs. Kennedy, what do you see the Big Blue doing?
Well, the word is that they won't let Leonard Floyd get past them, but in this situation, Elliott's still there. Nobody traded up for Elliott. I didn't mock any trades. So I think that if Elliott's there at 10, I think the Giants take them. So that's what I went with.
And then the Monsters of the Midway, the Bears, have the 11th pick in Chicago. The draft's in Chicago. That could be fun.
Yeah, I think Leonard Floyd is where we go there. He's, again, that versatile linebacker. I think Fangio will do a great job with him.
The Saints at 12.
Paxton Lynch, that's my big upset pick there. I think that they're looking quarterback. They quietly had him in to visit. They even were one of the teams trying to trade up to number 1. So they want a quarterback. I think they like Paxton Lynch. I think they could go him there.
Okay, Dolphins at 13.
Shaq Lawson, I compared him to Olivier Vernon when I was first watching Shaq Lawson, so I think they lost Vernon. I think Shaq Lawson will fill right in.
And after years of miserable drafts, boy, the Raiders have really turned it around the last couple of years and had some nice drafts. They're at 14. Will that trend continue for them? Will they make a really good pick here, you think?
I think it will. They haven't moved around a lot, and they've let things fall in their lap. They got Khalil Mack, and then they got David Carr in the second round. They just kind of let things happen. And that was the same year they got Amari Cooper. So they're letting things happen. I think they let it happen again. They don't trade up, and Vernon Hargraves falls in their lap, and that's who they take.
Tennessee's got a bunch of picks, but their first-round pick now at 15 from the Rams. What do you see the Titans doing?
Taylor Decker, I think they plug him in at right tackle. They sign Luan to a long-term deal on left tackle, and they have their bookends for a while. 16,
the Lions. Always interesting to see what Detroit does. They've hit some big ones, and they've missed big, too. What do you see them doing this year?
I hope they go defensive line because they've lost so many players there. So Sheldon Rankins, this will be a good value for Sheldon Rankins, and I think he'll help out with the pass rush and in the run game.
No Bama guys yet. Could the Falcons buy it on Reggie Ragland at 17?
They might. That was one of the guys that I played around with, but I think they want that versatile linebacker. Dan Quinn wants the versatile guy, so I went with Darren Lee.
Okay. 18, Colts. Now, Ryan Kelly's been a fast mover. A lot of speculation that they might, the Colts might grab Kelly at center at the 18th pick. You agree, or you have somebody else plugged in there?
Absolutely, I do. That's the first Bama guy right there. I think that he'll help on that line in more than just one position. He's a great communicator. He can call the audibles. He can move guys around. I think that he's just the smart guy that they need on that line to really stabilize the whole thing from one position.
All right, we're getting into the Bama area now. Another team that might bite on a Bama defensive lineman could be Buffalo. You know how Rex Ryan loves the big D lineman. They've got Darius already up there. Any chance the Bills might take Robinson or Reed here?
It was between Robinson, Reed, and Chris Jones, and I went with Chris Jones because he likes those versatile guys, and Chris Jones could be a basketball player too. I think he's going to go with sort of ceiling over what the two Alabama guys are, which are already grown men. So I think that he would go with Chris Jones.
The other New York team, the Jets, picking at 20.
At 20, I have them taking Jaron Reed. I think they might be losing Mo Wilkerson. They lost Smith in their interior, so I think they need a guy to be plugging holes in the middle. So I think Jaron Reed is the best run stopper in the draft, and I think that they plug in the middle of the defense.
All right, your Skins at 21. Now, they already hit the jackpot by getting Josh Norman. I mean, nobody a month ago could have seen this coming. So they get a lockdown corner. Now they've got a 21 overall pick here in the first round. Some interesting options still available for Washington. What do you think your team does?
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive line is easily their biggest need, but I think that it's so deep this year on the defensive line. I think that they might wait to try to fill that in second, third, fourth round. So I went with Carl Joseph, the safety. We haven't had a good safety since Sean Taylor passed years ago, and we've really been looking for somebody solid back there. And I think in addition to Norman having Joseph back there, I think our secondary goes from a weakness to a strength in one off season. All
right, we're into playoff teams now. The Texans, Bill O'Brien, strong-willed coach, has a lot of say in personnel decisions. They signed a free agent quarterback. What do you see the Texans doing?
I think they go Corey Coleman. Not a lot of people know this, but he worked out Corey Coleman during his pro day down at Baylor. Coach O'Brien actually showed up and ran him through drills specifically. I think he likes Corey Coleman. He's a good fit opposite DeAndre Hopkins. And this starts to run on wide receivers because next I have the Vikings going with Josh Doxson. Versatile guy across from Stephon Diggs. And then following that pick, Laquan Treadwell to the Bengals. So 3 wide receivers I think are going to be in a run there.
Okay. Yeah, and the Bengals, they have done well with wide receivers. Still trying to get over that playoff hump, but they're a talented football team. All right, the Steelers. Man, I tell you, over the years, is there anybody, Kennedy, that's drafted better than the Steelers? We're talking probably maybe the last 40, 50 years. I mean, they seem to know what they're doing in the draft. where you have them going this year?
I have them. I agree with you. They're a great drafting team. They always have been. I have them going William Jackson. They need somebody in the secondary. This is also a place where a guy like Ashawn Robinson might go. I was vacillating between the Bama defensive lineman and William Jackson, but they'll either go secondary defensive line, and I had them going William Jackson.
All right, Seattle. Now, I'm going to say this, and I know he's not going to be the pick. I would love, and maybe they can get him in the second round, I would love to see Derrick Henry wind up in Seattle. I think with Lynch retiring, I know they got a lot of backs on that roster, but I think he would be a perfect fit there. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger at 26 for Derrick Henry, but just a little personal anecdote there. I'd love to see him wind up in Seattle. Where do you think the Hawks go with this pick?
I think they go Vernon Butler. They want somebody on the defensive line that can move around, versatile guy. The most versatile defensive lineman on the board that I have left is Vernon Butler. I think that Vernon Butler might go in the teens, so that would be a good value here for the Seahawks. And going back to Henry, I totally agree with you. I think he needs to be with a team like the Panthers or the Seahawks, one of those power running teams, maybe even the Niners, but he needs to end up with a team, even the Cowboys, that have a straight ahead running game, are going to open up holes for him, and I think he could really flourish next year. Like the
Steelers, another great drafting team is Green Bay. Man, they don't miss a lot, and they're really good in this late first-round area at finding value and getting a guy that becomes a great player for them. So I'm interested to see who you think Green Bay will pick here.
Yeah, and again, they're a team, and you start to see a trend. The teams that stay home and they don't trade around, and if they do, they trade down, and they just kind of stay home and let things fall in their lap. It usually works out well, and Reggie Ragland's a guy that could have gone in the team. They needed inside linebacker because Clay Matthews was having to play inside and out, and they want him to be able to go outside full-time. Reggie Ragland comes in. He's the perfect thumper for that defense. He'll help the run game. He'll help in the short zones. And I think he's just an absolutely perfect guy to toughen up that Packers defense, which has been, a pretty glaring weakness that's covered up by Aaron Rodgers in the offense.
Okay. Kennedy, we're getting a little short on time, so just go ahead and rattle off these last 5 picks, who and where that you've got in your mock draft.
Okay. To the Chiefs, I have Eli Apple. To the Cardinals, I have Ashawn Robinson. The Carolina Panthers, Keanu Neal, and then last, the Broncos, I have German Ifedi for the offensive line.
Okay, so you got Robinson to the Cardinals, so you've got 4 Bama guys going in the first round. Or did you have Ragland in the first round?
I did. Yep, Ragland went to the Packers.
Packers, that's right. That's right. You rattled that off quickly. Okay. All right. A couple more minutes here with you. I want to ask now, as we've gotten through that first round, about some of the other Alabama guys. We talked about where Derrick Henry, scheme-wise, kind of needs to fit. Where do you see him being picked? What round, second or third?
It depends. I think it could be as early as the Cowboys in their second-round pick. I think he fits their system absolutely perfectly. If they don't go Elliott in the first, I could see it there. Or as late as the early third round. I think if he gets to the Cowboys' third-round pick, I think he's gone. So I think there's about a 30-pick range there that he might go.
Kenyon Drake.
Oof, he's a third, fourth guy. I can see him late third, early fourth, somewhere in there. It's got to be, again, it's the right scheme. Someone's got to fit him.
Cyrus Jones.
Cyrus Jones, I love. I could see him going second or third round. I think people don't see him, but he could be a prototypical nickel corner. So
wow.
I'd take him in the late second.
Coker get drafted. I know I've asked you this just about every week, but since you've been to your final evaluations, do you think somebody bites on him in the 7th round, or he has to go the free agent route?
I hope so. I mean, because since he's a good kid, I think he'll get picked up in the 7th. If not, he'll be a priority free agent. He might even make more money being a priority free agent than he would late in the 7th. Anybody
else, whether it's Petway or Dominic Jackson or anybody else on this Bama club that you think might get drafted?
Yeah, we've talked about this, and with a lot of the big schools, it's they're at Bama for a reason. They're elite athletes. They have elite size. I would bet that somebody's going to get grabbed in the 7th. I couldn't even begin to guess who it would be, but all these big schools usually have guys that aren't even starters that are picked in the 7th because of their height, weight, speed measurement. All
right, before we wrap up, you went through your mock draft, went through the entire first round, 4 Bama guys in the first round. It can go back and forth. Do you expect, we see it every year, all you draft analysts break it down, you power rate these guys, you have it all laid out, then somebody just shocks us with a pick that we didn't see coming at all. Who is the team in that first round most likely to shock us this year? I know that's a strange question, but does anybody jump out at you that might totally go off the grid here?
There's some of those teams in the bottom of the round. I think the Panthers usually do whatever they want. They don't really care about value. I think the Cardinals might surprise, taking a guy like Connor Cook. Maybe he fits their system well. So I think late in the first round is usually when you get those shockers because the picks aren't as valuable. In the middle of the rounds, above that, the Lions always seem to to do something. And the Browns, a possibility. They could trade out, or if they've decided, hey, we've gotten our value by trading down, maybe they reach a little bit because they feel more comfortable now that they've traded down.
Kennedy Paynter, our guest from drafttech.com. Final question. I know you have Wentz rated a little higher. Between the two quarterbacks, Wentz and Goff, who becomes a better pro?
I think, in my mind, it's Wentz. I think he's landing with a good offensive coordinator. I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Fisher. He's sort of the coach of mediocrity. I think the Rams have a good roster now, but they're not going to be able to pay all their players. They don't have the best offensive roster. So I think that Wentz is in the best position to succeed, because I think he's also going to sit for a couple of years. So I think down the line, I think Wentz will end up being the better guy.
Great stuff as always, Kennedy. Tell folks, I know you're going to be busting it on Draft Tech all day and all night and for the next 3 days, how folks can keep up with all the great information you have available.
Yeah, please check out Draft Tech. We have one more mock draft coming out right before the draft, and then with every pick, we actually re-simulate the draft. So there's a new mock draft after every pick. We're the only site that does that. So after every pick, you can see who your favorite team might take, first, second, third round, all the way through the seventh, and it's updating all the time live. So please check that out. And you can check me out on Twitter. I'm at Kennedy_Paynter, Paynter.
All right. I know your work's not done. You got a lot more to do. And next week, I'd like to have you on one more time just for a post-draft recap.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.